Welcome to Buffalo NAN, Action Now podcast, your go-to for community change. It's time to inspire, inform, and ignite. Let's take action together. Get up, get into it, and get involved.
Welcome, everybody, to Buffalo NAN Action Now podcast. I'm Dr. James A. Lewis III, the president of the local chapter of the Niagara Buffalo chapter of the National Action Network. And it's your time to get up, get into it, and get involved. This is our podcast to try to make you more aware of what's going on and to reintroduce to you the Buffalo Niagara chapter of the National Action Network. We're here to help protect the civil rights of all individuals, trying to increase voter education and information and registration for all voters, and fight discrimination in housing, accommodation, services, and employment. We are encouraging and reward academic, scientific, and artistic excellence in minority students, specifically minority low-income students in our area, to get them more involved in education. We're also creating a criminal justice and judicial system that is fair and equal for all people. I am here today, and I'm blessed to be with my administrator, the boss of bosses, Miss Karen Hargrove, and I also have our overseer Sandra Scruggs, and our very special guest is the Reverend Mark E. Blue, president of the Buffalo NAACP. We are partnering with the NAACP on so many things, but right now we're trying to get voter education, key projects, 2025 issues that will affect you. And believe me, you will be impacted by 2025 if not the right person is elected to be the president of the United States. The conservative movement has taken a long time to put this 2025 pact together, and we need to dissect it and look at how it will affect us. And then we want to delve into what our president from the NAACP has been so busy with, and maybe we can get an update on the 514 initiatives. We want to start by allowing our president to introduce himself to all of the people that are here today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reverend Mark Blue, president of the Buffalo NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And this is a very important opportunity for us to speak to you where you are, in your living rooms or wherever you may be listening and seeing this podcast. The vote for this election is pivotal. It's important that we get out and use the right that has been given to us by our ancestors who have died to make sure this happens. Not only that, but it's relevant today because it's not just a presidential election, although that's important, but we also have local elections that we need to be a part of as well, and also the school board election. So we have a lot at stake during this election. The presidential election, yes, is very important, very critical. Local elections are also number one, along with our school board elections. We have to be proactive in this. We have to understand that our voice is our power. Our voice is our vote. We have been given these rights. Let's not sit down and not use the rights that have been given to us. So I want to thank NAN and our illustrious president, and also we're both members of both organizations. We're working together to make sure that we educate individuals on their duties, responsibilities, and on their civic duty as Americans. And believe me, we haven't been Americans long, according to the Constitution and according to those who try to pin us out. So it's important that we are proactive in this movement of voting.
The National Association of Black Police Officers was in town this past weekend, and they had a workshop, what to do when stopped by the police. And it was interesting when people had complaints and they said, well, what should we do? And the panelists told them, they said, have you contacted the local NAACP? They said, no. Have you contacted the local National Action Network? They said, no. In order to be involved, we need to have members of these organizations so that we can go forward. I also want to introduce Overseer Sandra Scruggs. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, greetings to you, to my fellow panelists, and to those of you who are listening. My name is Sandra Scruggs. I'm an overseer, which I have to make this disclaimer. I do not speak for the organization that I'm part of, which is the Kingdom Council of Interdependent Christian Churches and Ministries. And I also have my own nonprofit, which is Manna for Life, which works with refugees and immigrants and homeless people and the kind of people that will be affected by this election, very much so. So I don't speak for them. I'm sitting here as a citizen of the United States of America and asking and hoping and praying that you make the right decisions because they affect my life as well. I trust the people of the United States to make it so that I can live and my children can live and all of my family members for making the right choices and the people that I work with. So I'm praying that my voice is specifically to the people who are sitting on the edge and saying today, nah, I don't like either one of them. I'm not going to vote. And I hope that we can say something in this time that is ours that will encourage you to not let this moment in history slide and you end up on the wrong side of history.
Interesting. Your background was foreign missions, and you traveled all over the world. But it seems like we need to have home missions, local missions.
Well, I spend a lot of time for that very reason, because even in the travels, people say, well, you're in these other countries, and they look at us like, well, what you doing here? Some of them don't think they're all that bad off. They think that we know who we are, we know where we are, but what are you here for? Why are you coming to share or tell us what we need to do in our government and our lives when you have those kind of things? And I have specifically focused my attention on things that are in America. Our streets are running red with the blood of our children.
Yep.
Okay. And so therefore, how can we look ahead and not address the things that are happening right on our soil? And the way we do that is by being involved in the government. We are the government of the people, by the people, for the people. And we're the ones that can turn this around. And then the world has come to us. We go on foreign missions, but the foreign field is right in America. That's right here. Many people have fled here, and that's what I do. I work with a lot of them right here on this soil, and we don't, address them as our sisters and brothers the way we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Ms. Karen Hargrove, would you introduce yourself and tell us about some of the organizations you work with?
Well, I am a member of the National Action Network Buffalo chapter. I serve as a treasurer. I am involved in the Buffalo chapter, the links, and I also serve there. And I just want to let everyone know that the links has an initiative. We are going to be going into the Buffalo public school systems, and we are going to be trying to register at minimum 150 youth. Ages 16, 17 pre-register, and then any of those that are 18 and over, asking them to register and educating them on why they need to vote, the importance of voting.
Wow, that's a nice place to start, because 16, 17-year-olds can register, right? But can they vote?
They can't vote until they're 18.
18, but you can register now.
Can register now.
All right, Mr. President, that's a pivot to voter registration.
Absolutely. What has happened is that 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register. And when they turn 18, the voter registration card will be sent to the address on their on their registration. Also, what's very important now, in the last couple of years, people who were formerly incarcerated, who had felonies, they can now register to vote. Also, those who are actively on parole can register to vote.
Wow.
Also, those who are in the holding center and have not been convicted can register to vote. So there should be no reason why pen can't go to paper during this process. So 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register to vote. Those who are 18 and older can register to vote. Also, those who are formerly incarcerated with felonies can register to vote. Those who are formerly or on parole can register to vote. Those who are in the holding center and have not been convicted of a crime can register to vote. So registration is one of the things that we want to make sure that people have the knowledge of and not only register, but go out and vote. It's critical that we go out and not just say I'm registered to vote, but go out and vote. I received my new voter registration card, and on that voter registration card is a scan that when you go to vote, instead of having them to ask you who you are, they can scan your card and you can go and the process will be expedited. But let me say this, early voting starts on the 26th of October.
The last day to register.
The last day to register is the 26th of October. We have to go and register now because it takes roughly 5 to 10 days for that process of registration to be on the rolls, on the voter rolls. So it's very important and very critical that we do all of this voter registration now. So on the day, the 26th of October, when we go out, we can early vote. And let me tell you the importance of early voting. You can make it a family event because we need to educate our children on the process of voting. So after church on the 27th of October, you can take your whole family and you can go and vote. And when you go to the grocery store, you can go and vote up until the 2nd of November. That's when early voting is. You don't have to go to your regular polling place. You can go any polling place that's open and you can vote right there. Scan with your voter registration card or even tell them who you are, and your voting ballot for where you live will be printed out and you can vote right then and right there. So this is very critical. This election is critical, both national, both presidential and local. They're all critical and vital for us to teach our children what it means to vote. Our ancestors have died for this. We need to be able to tell them who we're voting for intelligently and not give them sound bites and snippets of what's on the TV, on the social media. But we need to have some real conversations with our children to let them know how important this election is. And for those who may be on the fence, if you feel that you can't support or you don't want to vote for anybody, vote for your children. Vote for the candidates that will help your children, because a lot of us, we may not be around as long as we expect to be around, but our children are important. The issues are important. Not the individual, but the issues in which we want to be represented in this election.
Amazing. And there's also some proposals on that election ballot. I have one in my hand, and I think that they're voting to protect the unequal treatment based on ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, sex, including sexual orientation, that they're asking you to vote yes to protect these people in New York State through our Constitution. And also there's a vote to alter certain voting requirements in Erie County chapter. It requires that the county legislature impose a state authorized 1% and 0.75% sales tax and compensating using tax by a simple majority instead of presently a required affirmative vote of 2/3. That would make it easier for our county legislatures to get things passed in the future. So don't overlook anything on your ballot. If you get in there, you need to make sure you need to do what you need to do. You know?
Read the ballot.
Read it.
Karen?
He said, read the ballot. And the point that I was just going to make, I don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's important to understand that no matter who the president is, if they don't have the supporting cast, the House and the Senate, nothing will happen. So it's important that you look at the ballot and you do down ballots. So as Pastor Blue said, local is important. Do the down ballot. Make sure you go all the way down and vote for those people you feel will best support you. So we do have on the Democratic line, of course, we know we have Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We have Christian Hildebrand that's running for Senate. For Supreme Court justices, we have Henry Nowak, Catherine Panatino, Deborah Crimes, Michael Norris. For the representative in Congress, we have Tim Kennedy. And I guess maybe I'll just go all the way down rather than doing the Democratic line. So let me go back and let you know who's running for president. I've already told you, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We have Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, vice president. And for the U.S. Senate, we have Michael, and I don't have my glasses on, and he's asking me to read this. So, I think it's Carno. I don't know how to pronounce that name.
Seprecone.
Okay.
That's what I can see with my bad eyesight.
Well, then I think because you have your glasses on, I would really prefer that you read this because I need
the
my
main
glasses.
thing is that you get in there and that you examine the ballot and that you go through all of these different things. But one of the things that President Blue said that felons can vote. We need to go through the House because I know that there's some 5,000 individuals across New York State that were just released from prison because of the revocation of the Rockefeller laws, where they were locking people up for marijuana, and now marijuana is legal in New York State. You know, like how is that impacting people?
It's very severely impacting people because people have long been said it's long been stated that if you are a felon that you can no longer participate. Listen, you're an American. If you have been exonerated from that, then now you can go back and do what your civic duty entitles you to do, which is to be a full citizen. You can now vote for those who you feel can help our country, those who you feel need to be changed in our country. You are a full citizen. Your rights have been restored. And since your rights have been restored, you can participate in the manner in which you feel is in which you feel you should be participating in. So voting is number one. And we want to let individuals know that if you fulfilled that time, you can now come back and have that right restored back to you again. So it's very important that those who are formerly incarcerated, especially exonerated from that particular crime, you now have your rights restored. And enough is not being said about it. And the reason enough's not being said, because if we don't read, then we'll never know. We have to read. We have to pay attention. We have to get involved.
Amen. So Sandy?
I worked in the court system for 30 years. And there was a time when, Black people were going to catch a case because of the way the system was set up. And particularly regarding marijuana. And we had laws to say if you get so many of this and so many of that, then you're going to get this and then you're going to get that. And I had actually a cousin who voted for the very first time at the age of 50.
Wow.
He had a felony in a different state. And eventually the state decided to just expunge his record because his felonies came from driving without a license a lot. And so he had so many driving without a license charges.
He liked to drive.
He ended up with some kind of felony. And he couldn't drive. And so I guess somebody looked, he got a felony. And so he never voted. I found that sometimes when you ask people, are you registered to vote? And they'll say, no, I'm not going to vote. A lot of times they don't want to tell you they caught a case 20 years ago.
Stigma.
And even in the court system, a lot of times you had a felony and the attorneys would ask for a relief from disability. The disability of having a felony, which one of them was you couldn't vote. And sometimes they gave it to you and sometimes they didn't. But if people have a motive to keep you with a situation that does not permit you to vote, now that has been eradicated. We have to get that messaging out. You're right, Reverend Blue. It hasn't been said enough. And now we have to let people know it's okay. You're not even though you're allowed to vote, you have a right to vote, and your voice really does matter. We have to make people who have felt that, their voice don't matter, they couldn't change anything. We have to show them that they really do. We have to have these conversations before election crises come up. Mm-hmm. What would happen if families talked about voting in our beloved community at the dinner table?
Yeah.
And
That's
it
when they need to
became
do
a
it.
family event.
Yeah.
And we shared the stories like our ancestors did.
Well, we pray that it'll become that kind of an important thing. And I know that St. Luke AME Zion Church is holding voter registration every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 1:30 to 4:30 until October 18th. It is important that you get your uncles and your cousins and people that have been incarcerated. They paid their debt to society, and now restorative justice says that they can vote. They can do this. Now, one of the big things that's coming up is 2025. Who wants to take that?
2025 has been a document that has been penned by, and I can say this, by former Trump administrators. They have penned this document. And even in the Reagan area, there was a document as well that explained the same type of sentiment. This 2025 document, if the wrong person is elected, they're going to do away with women's rights as far as their physical rights. Abortion will be the
law of the land. Yeah,
it's crazy. Also, they want to do away with the Department of Education.
Right.
In that right, they want to militarize the military against citizens. So this is crazy. They're talking even about
regulatory agencies as well.
Absolutely,
right.
everything. So we have to be abreast of this. Yeah. We have to know. We have to read. Listen, they're putting things in print.
Right.
And the saying is, if you want to hide it from people,
from black people, you want to hide it from black people, put it in a book, write it down. We ain't gonna read it.
We have to. We have the right to read now.
Yes.
So
in New York, they haven't taken it away. Don't go to Florida.
Right. Don't go. But we need to look at Project 2025 because it's detrimental to African Americans and minorities. What they're doing is they're allowing the quote unquote majority to tell us what to do. The 1%ers, they're making them more and more powerful. Those who are against the Republican or Trump administration, if you are against them, they're going to beat you. They're going to
he said it.
Put you in jail.
He said day one, we're going to purge the land of all of these immigrants.
Right.
And if we don't say anything about the immigrants, because basically we're all immigrants. We came on slave ships. We weren't born here.
But wait a minute. Now we came on slave ships. They didn't have any problems with that.
No, they wanted us.
Not only that, but when you look at those who are those who are married to immigrants, I guess you're going to have to deport them.
No, you won't, because he's not going to let Melania go.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. But anyway, but we have to look at that, and look at how people come over. We're a nation of immigrants.
That's right.
No one was born in America. We all came from someplace else.
Except for the indigenous people who we celebrated yesterday.
Absolutely. So Project 2025 will tear up our country. It will tear up African Americans and minorities. It will do away with, they're already trying to do away with affirmative action now, but it will continue to further.
They've killed it some places.
They've continue to further delineate that from our country.
Now, your wife is a activist with the unions, and there's a huge piece in there about getting rid of the unions.
Listen, the unions are what made America what it is.
That's right.
It also gave fair wages to everyone. It also gave affirmative action, especially to opportunities to African Americans and minorities. So they will totally obliterate that. The education system, they will obliterate. women's rights and health rights, they will totally dismantle, which they're trying to do now. So when we look at this, it's detrimental to our society, to our African American and minority communities. And so we cannot let this agenda go forward. We have to educate ourselves. We have to speak against this agenda. And we also have to vote it out of our country. We cannot let Project 2025 to be issued in 2025.
Absolutely. And we certainly need the unions now, because there were concessions made during COVID, and they took rights and benefits away from our American workers. And now that COVID has passed and the Dow has hit its highest point, they're not giving them back.
They're not. Once they take it away, you're not going to get it back. Once they put in a tax and they say it's only going to be for a limited amount of time, they're not going to repeal that.
Right.
They're going to continue to keep that, because now it's making money, just like cigarettes and alcohol.
Right. They got a tax on all of that.
Everything.
If you look at the pack of cigarettes or the liquor bottle, there's a state tax, there's a government tax, and that's one of the reasons why they're so slow for reform. Because
they like the money.
Yeah.
Follow the money.
That's it. Karen, what you got?
In regards to?
Trying to get people motivated and to get them get up, get into it, and get involved. We're trying to get people to get up off your seats and do nothing and realize that this is a critical issue. That's why we've taken to the airways to try to educate you and to bring you to snuff, I guess, so that you can get people around you involved in all of these things. And it's important to know that things have changed. There was a time when people that were on parole and they were in jail, they could not vote, but it's a new day, and we need to understand that. And then you have to read the whole ballot to make sure you don't miss anything on there, And
I think what I'd like to say is the discussion that we've had here today is very important. And we need to think about those people that can't vote. Pastor Scruggs and I had a conversation yesterday, and we talked about the homeless people.
Yeah. And they're right here in Buffalo. Right, if you ride down Michigan, look up under the viaducts, you'll see them. They're among us.
They can't vote because they don't have an address.
Right.
They have a voice that needs to be heard, and we have to be their voice. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, we have to be their voice.
And speak for them. And Buffalo suffered one of the most heinous crimes on 5/14, and we are still reeling from that. And those of us that weren't directly impacted, we were affected. And I know, President Blue, that you are working with the 514 Commission. Can you give us an update on some of those initiatives?
Yes, sir. We are close to announcing a location for the memorial, for the monument. We have a couple of things to work out, and we are very, very close to announcing where the location is going to be.
Boy, that's great.
Yes, sir. Also, what we're doing is we're going to be hiring an individual to help oversee that process. So we're looking at getting all the particulars of that out, so we can put the appeal out to individuals who want to be a part of the like an executive to help run the day-to-day operations and programming, and doing grants and things of that nature to help, because the whole purpose of the monument is not to be a one and done. We want to make sure that it's taken care of in perpetuity. We want to have different programs there for healing, programs there for people to come and have that sense of, yes, it happened, but my biggest thing is to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So we need to educate our community. It needs to be in our community. We need to educate our community as to all of the particulars of what this has done. One thing I love about our community is that the resiliency that we have.
Yes.
This did not cause us to implode. This did not cause,
and it could have.
It could have. No violence was taken. No car was overturned. No windows were broken. Our community came together in more than it has in a long time. But my issue with that is we ought to be doing this all the time, not just when tragedy strikes.
Yeah.
But this hopefully will be a centerpiece to bring all of the city of Buffalo and Western New York together so we can eradicate hate, so we can make sure that this does not happen in our community again. But the only way to do that is to educate. So we want a place of healing, a place where people can come and have relief on what has happened. We're going to use this as a piece where even artists can express themselves in this. So it will be almost a type of museum, community center.
Wow.
So we're looking to do this, and we want to make sure our community has some wholeness about what we're doing. One thing I learned is that sometimes these tragedies make us stronger.
Resiliency.
Yes, sir. It makes us stronger in realizing that there's more to our community than what people thought. But again, this should never happen in our community.
Shouldn't have happened.
We should have had more grocery stores in our community.
Right.
We should have had more of the helps that we need in our community. And that's not an indictment on anyone but us, because we make the community.
Right.
And we can dictate how things happen in our community. Mm-hmm. So we're coming together. We're close to announcing a location for the 514 Memorial. And stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I certainly will, because when that happened, it was like a stone in a pond, and you dropped it, and it happened here, but the ripple effects of it are everywhere. And I had heard at one point that one of the remedies for that was to restore the neighborhoods, to help people in that area to, senior citizens, get a roof.
Absolutely. Another initiative that we're working on is an Urban Land Institute study. The NAACP, we're working with other collaborative partners, the National Action Network, and we want to see what else can happen on Jefferson. And this is not an indictment on anyone. We just want to see what else can happen. The city has been doing a yeoman's job in doing things, and we're partnering with the city in the downtown revitalization grant. But we want to see what else can happen.
Yeah.
And we're using a trusted source that the city has used before with the Urban Land Institute. And we're looking forward to seeing all of what can happen on Jefferson. I remember Jefferson growing up.
I do too.
And Jefferson was the place.
It was popping.
It was the place that we all were accustomed to being.
Yeah.
So we're looking at doing
it's
some
like 4 supermarkets.
Yes.
3 or 4 banks.
Big malls.
And that's what I was going to say. The 514 exhibit that was at the Albright Arts Gallery just concluded. But what it highlighted was Figmos.
Yeah.
And the redlining that took place in our community.
Absolutely.
Right.
It did highlight that.
It highlighted that.
Figmos. Finally, I got my
own supermarket.
The first black supermarket.
Absolutely. So we look at all of this, and we want to do some things that can help restore, some things that can help rejuvenate and revitalize our community. There's a lot of development that's going to be happening on Jefferson, and we want to see what else can happen to make sure that things can be restored. So the Jefferson that we knew will be better, not just to bring back to life, but be better for our community.
So we certainly thank God for each and every one of you, and I hope the message will seep out to those of you that are not registered to get registered, and that you will be about your Father's business and get up, get into it, and get involved. This is our first podcast, and we're looking forward to do other things that will impact this community, because our middle name is Action, and we want to make sure that we get all of this done. Amen. And so we thank you on behalf of the National Action Network. We'll get you to tune in next time. We thank all of our hosts that are here, Karen Hargrove, Overseer Sandy, and of course, President Mark Blue. Thank you, and have a blessed day. Now you get up, you get into it, and you get involved.